I came home early that night because I wanted to surprise her. It was our wedding anniversary. I had reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date. Flowers in the back seat. A card I'd spent 40 minutes writing in the parking lot of the florist. Because I kept crossing things out, trying to find the right words for 12 years of marriage. I never made it past the front door. My name is Marcus. I'm 41 years old. And the night I came home to surprise my wife was the night my entire life collapsed and then slowly rebuilt itself into something I never expected. This is that story. Sarah and I met in college. She was studying architecture. I was studying finance. We were complete opposites in every way that mattered on paper, and completely inseparable in every way that counted in real life. We got married at 29, bought a house at 31. By 35, we had built what I genuinely believed was a good life, a real one. I traveled for work, a lot. That was always the tension between us. The one thing we argued about more than anything else. My job took me away sometimes, 3 weeks a month. Sarah said she understood, said she was proud of what I was building for us. I believed her. I had no reason not to. For 12 years, I had no reason not to. I remember every detail of that night. I parked 2 houses down because I wanted to walk up quietly, ring the bell, see her face when she realized I was home a day early. The lights were on, downstairs. I remember thinking she must be watching TV. I remember smiling to myself as I reached for my keys. I remember the moment I opened the front door. And I remember the exact second my brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. There was a jacket on the coat rack that wasn't mine, men's shoes by the door that weren't mine, and sounds coming from upstairs that told me everything I needed to know before I even moved. I stood in my own hallway for what felt like a very long time. I didn't go upstairs. I didn't call her name. I didn't make a sound. I just stood there, holding flowers, holding a card with words I'd spent 40 minutes finding, and felt something in my chest go completely, utterly quiet. Not rage, not tears, just quiet. I set the flowers down on the hallway table. I put the card next to them. I took my keys back out of my pocket, and I walked back out the door. I sat in my car for 2 hours. I didn't call anyone. I didn't text. I just sat there in the dark with the radio off, watching the lights in my house go on and off through the windows, watching a shadow move across the bedroom curtain, watching the life I thought I had continue on without me. At some point, the front door opened. A man walked out, medium height, dark jacket. He paused on the step, looked at his phone, and walked to his car without looking back. I watched him drive away. Then I started my car, and I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't go back inside that house that night. Maybe not ever. By 3 a.m., I was in a motel 2 towns over, lying on a bed that smelled like industrial detergent, staring at the ceiling. My phone had been ringing since midnight. Sarah's name on the screen over and over. Then texts, then voicemails I didn't listen to. I turned it off. Not because I was being dramatic, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I genuinely had nothing to say. I stayed in that motel for 3 days. On the 4th day, I called my older brother Daniel. He was the only person I trusted completely. I told him everything in about 4 sentences. He was quiet for a long moment, and then he said, "Where are you?" "I'm coming." Daniel showed up that afternoon with a bag of food and no unnecessary questions. We sat in that motel room and talked until 2 in the morning. He didn't tell me what to do. He didn't tell me how to feel. He just listened. At the end of it, he said one thing that I've never forgotten. You don't have to decide anything tonight. You just have to decide what you're doing tomorrow. What I did tomorrow was call my company's HR department and ask to be transferred to our Seattle office. It was a request I'd been sitting on for 2 years. My boss had been pushing me toward it. Better territory, better accounts, a real step up. I'd always said no because Sarah didn't want to leave. I said yes. They processed it in a week. I hired a moving company to collect my personal belongings from the house while Sarah was at work. I left a note on the kitchen counter. 3 sentences. I know what happened. I'm not angry. Don't look for me. I changed my number that afternoon. I was in Seattle by the following Friday. For the first 6 months, I didn't think about healing. I didn't think about moving on. I didn't think about what the future looked like. I just worked. I worked like I was trying to outrun something, because I was. I took every account my boss offered. I traveled constantly. I filled every hour of every day with something that required my full attention so that the quiet moments, the ones where memory creeps in, were as few as possible. It worked, mostly. There were nights where I'd be in a hotel in some city I didn't know, and I'd lie awake thinking about 12 years of dinners and arguments and Sunday mornings and small moments that I'd thought were permanent. Nights where I'd reach for my phone to call someone who no longer existed in my life. Those nights were hard, but they got shorter and further apart. I met someone at a work conference in Portland. Her name was Claire. She was a project manager from Chicago, sharp, direct, funny in a way that caught me completely off guard. We had dinner, then another dinner, then she was flying to Seattle to see me. I told her everything on our third visit, sat across from her at a restaurant, and told her the whole story, from the front door to the motel to the note on the counter. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "How long ago was that?" 2 years, I said. She nodded slowly. "Are you done?" "Done." "Running," she said. I looked at her for a long moment. "I think so," I said. She smiled. "Good, because I'd like you to stay somewhere for a while." That was 3 years ago. But the story doesn't end there. Because 18 months after I left, Sarah found me. I don't know exactly how. A mutual friend, I think. Or maybe she hired someone. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that one afternoon I looked up from my desk at the Seattle office, and my assistant told me there was a woman in the lobby who said she knew me. I knew before I even stood up. She looked different, thinner, tired in a way I hadn't seen before. She was, holding her bag with both hands the way people do when they're nervous and don't know what to do with themselves. She said my name when she saw me. I said, "How did you find me?" "It doesn't matter," she said. "Can we talk?" We talked. She told me the man had been her co-worker, that it had started 8 months before that night, and that it had already ended by the time I came home, that she had been about to tell me that she had been trying to find the courage for weeks. She said she never stopped loving me. She said she had made the worst mistake of her life, and she knew it. She said she had ended things with him the morning after I left, when she found the note and realized what she had destroyed. She said she was sorry, more than once, in different ways, with tears running down, her face in the lobby of my office building, in a city she had traveled to alone to. Find someone who had disappeared. I listened to all of it. And when she finished, I said, "I believe you." She looked up. "I believe that you're sorry," I said. "I believe that you loved me. I believe that it was a mistake and that you've paid for it." I paused, "but I also believe that I stayed in a marriage for 12 years while you were slowly becoming someone I didn't know. And I think you did too. She was quiet. I'm not angry at you anymore, I said. I want you to know that I think about you sometimes, and I genuinely hope you're okay. But, she said softly, but I have a life now, I said. A real one, and I'm not going to walk away from it. She nodded. She didn't argue. She stood up, picked up her bag, and walked to the elevator. She turned around once. I hope she knows how lucky she is, she said. The doors closed. I stood there for a moment. Then I went back to my desk. That evening, I called Claire and told her what had happened. She listened quietly. When I finished, she said, "Are you okay?" "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "I think I finally am." We got engaged 4 months later. I think about that night sometimes. The flowers on the hallway table, the card, the quiet that settled in my chest like something permanent. And I used to think that night was the end of something. Now I understand it was the beginning, not of a better version of the life I had, but of a completely different one. One I wouldn't trade for anything. If this story hit you somewhere, drop your age and where you're watching from in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next one.